G'day guys, welcome to Spacies Arcade. Alright, this is it. This is the big one. We're going through doing a full all-access tour of the arcade and all the machines that I currently have here in the house. And guys, I pulled out all the stops for you this time because just let me explain the areas that we're going to go through today. And we're going to go through relatively quickly because there's a lot to cover. But the main arcade itself, of course, is the main event, and we'll get to that at the end of looking at all the other machines first. There's an overflow area of a couple of machines in my study, and then there's an overflow area of a bunch of cool machines out in the lounge living room area. And then we come out here into the garage where I am now, and there's a little overflow area that I normally have here for rotation purposes that normally just houses 2 machines. And then all the machines that you see behind me here are normally the overflow that is off-site and not at my house usually, and in the storage unit. So yeah guys, I've got a bit of a problem, as you can see, and it's just got progressively worse over the months, and I now have an arcade with an overflow, with a lounge overflow, with another overflow in a rotation area, and off-site storage. So yeah. All right, so we're going to start off with the off-site storage stuff. For you guys, I got all of this stuff out of storage, got it here, set it up just for this video, just for you. Let's take a look at what sort of effort was involved there. As you can see guys, there was quite a lot of effort to get all these machines here and set up, but it's worth it to go through them all with you. Some of these are a little bit problematic on some of these machines. You know, this is why I had some of them in storage, and of course just can't fit everything in the house at one time. Always had plans to keep coming back to these machines and doing them up, and then looking for ways to rotate them into the mix. So we'll go through all of these ones first before we progress through to the remainder throughout the house, and then finally onto the arcade. And guys, before we do that, of course, all of this effort and all of this work wouldn't be possible without the people that absolutely support this channel, and that's all the subscribers, you people that are watching today. Even if you're not a subscriber, you're still a supporter, and of course the people that do support this channel through Patreon. Thank you very much. Thanks to these guys. Okay, let's start with the World Rally in the APB cab. Of course, this is the LAI version I've spoken about before. It's slightly thinner the actual Atari one won't actually fit the Atari APB controls. It's just out by a small fraction. But this has been converted anyway. It's got World Rally in it, and such a cool cabinet. I'm not so sure about the sort of industrial grey that they use, and I wasn't keen on the side art of the original APB side art, but that's since been taken off. It's got the original chair on here, which is very rare. Really solidly built cabinet, and I love World Rally. I missed this game in the arcade. This has been, of course, in storage for a while. And just for you guys, when I got it here, I ended up busting the marquee here. But I'm not too dissed about that, because this was actually cut anyway, this original APB. This is actually cut out, and they put the World Rally before. So this whole thing really needed to change. It's a bit of a mess. And remember, this was the monitor that I took out of a TV and did an episode on that in terms of how to turn a TV into an arcade monitor with an arcade chassis. And that's just such a beautiful monitor now. Oh, it's gorgeous. So yeah, absolutely miss this game, love it, and hopefully get it back in the arcade at some point. Now, next up is Virtua Cop 2, and as you can see, she is not running at the moment, and that is because I have some power issues. And if I just reboot it, I'll just show you what's going on. So on power up, it actually does fire up, but you'll see the credits down there, so it's 55R dash dash. I've seen this before, guys. It will reset in a second. It's due to power, and I'm pushing about 5.4 volts max out of a new supply that I put in, because I thought the other supply might have been dead. And unfortunately, 5.4 doesn't seem to be enough. There's so much cables between the supply all the way through. There's so much voltage drop by the time it gets to the cage. It's just not getting enough voltage. So I need to do some voltage checks at the cage and just see how far it is dropping down, and just see if I can work out where we're losing voltage along the way. So much cabling in this cabinet, guys. Crazy cool game though, Virtua Cop 2. Awesome cab. It's big. It was pretty big when I had it in the arcade, and that was probably the main reason I took it out. It's just a little bit too big inside the house. So quite interesting too, because probably a lot of houses you wouldn't be able to get this in, because it is a really, really wide cab, and we had to take the door off our house to get it in. So anyway, guys, Virtua Cop 2, an absolute classic. Next up, we have a LAI Fat Boy, and this is just a awesome form factor, standard LAI staple multi-game cab. From back in the day, swapping all sorts of different games. Of course, we've got the Street Fighter going here at the moment. The Skins game marquee. I haven't actually run the Skins game in here, but I do own the original board set and also the very unique controls for the Skins game. And my intention was I was going to build that at some point, and maybe even have the swapped in for this particular controls here. It just, provides a lot of options. It's a beautiful, huge, nice big 25-inch screen in here. It's just a really, really nice cab to have in your collection. Next up is Speed Race, Taito Speed Race, and of course it doesn't have Taito Speed Race. And we've got World Rally 2 in here, and of course the sequel to the beloved first one. It is still an awesome game, but of course I didn't buy it for that. I bought it to save this beautiful Taito cabinet. We can't really see the side artwork here at the moment, but this is a beautiful classic. Was originally a green screen, well, black and white with a green screen overlay, top-down racer, would have a real gauge on it and LED lights for all the speed. All of that stuff's been lost. It's been hacked together by the previous owner when it was swapped out. Such a shame, lost all its original parts. And the steering wheel here chewed up. This is still original on the side here. Got the original instructions and stuff. So there's still a lot of the cabinet that is original. Of course, the side art and everything is awesome, as well as the marquee, which currently doesn't have a lit light. So yeah, I think my intentions is to actually get this into the arcade after it's been really spruced up. I don't think I'll be able to get it back to an original speed race. I've been looking around for those boards for so long, original boards, can't find them, and I won't be able to get the gauges and the extra LEDs. It's just going to be too hard. So I think I'll probably swap this out and put a big 25 in here, make it really nice on the surrounds, a new steering wheel, and new front panel here, and clean it up, and it'll be just a nice piece of art in terms of the cabinet and the history of it, and a cool game to play anyway with World Rally 2. So it's sort of that one or the APB needs to be in the house, I think, again. Moving on to Hyper Olympic. You guys in the States, the same game name as Track and Field. Now, interestingly, it looks like I have got some faults developing with the graphics here. You can see some random dots. Looks like some of the video chips or something has got on me. And well, guys, I mean, look, I had all this working perfectly inside, and I guess it's just one of the things, and I guess the risks when you're putting things out in storage. They don't tend to hold up very well, even though they are well protected out there. But still, we're talking old games, of course. Beautiful red Taito cabinet, which a lot of games came in. This was a control panel's rough, but this was a kit, an actual LAI kit, and to swap it in for Hyper Olympic. I'm used to this Taito red with the Defender in it, which is what I grew up with, and maybe we'll have a swap over into Defender at some point, I don't know. But I love that cabinet, and I love all the Taito series cabinets of the same style. It's beautiful wood, marine ply. It's thin, it's light, strong, doesn't blow up like the old chipboard. That's such a nice machine. All right, next up, guys, we have a Super Breakout. Now, you guys that have been watching the channel won't have seen this because this was a fairly recent pickup, and I was going to do a little episode on this and another cabinet, but at the end of the day, there's not much to say about it in its current state. We've lost the original marquee, still got all the original artwork down the side on both sides, which is really beautiful. The control panel, unfortunately, has been hacked. There should be a spinner control here and the selector on this side and a couple of buttons on the front which have been folded over. And this actually, if you look at the layout, you might notice something here. It's a lot like that. And that's because inside this machine at the moment there is a Hyper Olympic. Now it may actually be Hyper Olympic 84, which was the sequel to the other one. I'm not sure yet. I've looked at the board set. It says Hyper Olympics on it. I think, in fact, I think 84 was Hyper Olympics 84. But anyway, I need to check that board set out. Currently not working. There's the monitors in there, but it's dead. So I need to get the board set out and check that out. But I just wanted to get this cabinet. I wanted to save this cabinet. I just love these early cabinets. Super Breakout. So I'm tempted to, at some stage, probably try and source the original marquee. I don't know what I'm going to do, if I can recover this control panel or not. If not, I might have to try and source another original one. And then I might do a multi with all the spinner games in there. Might have to do something funky with the selector and have it as a button as well or something for, you know, some of the games that spinner games that need a shooting button. So yeah, anyway, look, it's an awesome cab, and I was really pleased to pick that up recently. Next up, we have one of two Neo Geos that I now own. This is the slightly smaller Neo Geo in a typical lowboy style cabinet, but absolutely decked out with the full Neo Geo goodness. Absolutely beautiful. Neo Geo is just fantastic. You got to have one in your collection. Metal Slug currently playing. Just so many cool Neo Geo games. Love this little cabinet, and I love my slightly bigger one that I have currently inside the arcade. Right, now this is the overflow area in the side of the garage here. I normally keep 2 machines. It's not normally the 2 machines that you'll see here, but of course I had to bring back Super Sprint to take another look at this beautiful machine. I have a board set for it, and I have a board set for Championship Sprint, and I can only get one board set working, so I have to swap the ROMs over if I want to swap in and play the other machine. And I was halfway through fixing this one up, and at the time there just wasn't enough room for this in the arcade at the same time with Championship Sprint. So Championship Sprint 1 at the time, and that's the machine that's normally sitting here in its place. But Super Sprint, guys, it's just an absolute classic. Again, pretty weird with these extra covers on this particular version, the Australian LAI version. And funnily enough, this isn't the same in the middle here, but I've seen plenty of pictures of other Australian Super Sprints that have these big boxes rather than the little ones. And this steering wheel isn't the right wheel either. And all of this stuff needs cleaning up. And again, it's another project along with nearly all of these machines that you've seen so far. And that's actually notwithstanding, guys, the machines that I've got inside. I mean, even though they're working, all of them still need lots of work. It's just heaps of work in this hobby, just not enough time. All right, now moving on from the Super Sprint, we have another machine that you guys at the channel that have been watching for a while would not have seen. This actually was the machine that I alluded to a long time ago when I said there was 2 original machines that I picked up, and one of them was the Tato Basketball, and which I got was almost one of my first cabs along with this one. And I've been meaning to bring it out and show you guys. It's not a great game. It's a black and white, but it's just totally original. And it is an absolute beautiful example of one of the games, early games, Atari games. Flyball is the name, and it's one of the early black and whites. And just look at the look at the little bezel around here too. It's so cool. It's a little stadium. So it's 100% complete. It's actually got a few spare controls that came with it as well. I've got the manual, everything, the board set, everything is clean and neat inside. The only thing that's missing, guys, unfortunately, is the flyback on the black and white monitor. So I've never been able to hook it up, and it's had the plug cut off it. So there needs to be a lot of work to take a look at that. So anyway, it's going to probably go back into storage for the moment until I get some time to come back to these sorts of projects. As you can already see, there's so many things I can do just with all these other machines, let alone getting onto this one. But I don't know, these things just, I've got a soft spot in my heart for these real original rare black and whites. So here we have the Copy Sega Blast cabinet, currently playing a Willow. And I've talked about these cabinets before. They pretty much are a one-to-one copy. They're in polycarbonate rather than fiberglass and metal like the real Sega Blast. But other than that, they are very, very similar. The controls are different, different quality of controls. This area is different on a real one. And you can rotate a real one in terms of the screen, and you can't do that on these copies. But guys, these are a really good buy if you are on a budget and you want that sort of dual player sit down cab. Of course, I am fortunate now that I have a real Sega Blast and also a Astro City to go with it, so I don't really need this one in the arcade, which is why it's currently in storage. But it's a really, really nice cabinet. Okay, surprise number 2, which is, well, number 3 actually after the Atari Flyball, but this is Atari's original video pinball, and what an amazing game this is, guys. This is superimposed with a reflective mirror, which mirrors the playfield up there, and you'll see actually one of the sides along here has actually come off, but that piece is actually in the cabinet, so I can stick that back up on there. But it reflects off the glass, and this beautiful black light makes it glow. And normally the monitor would be on behind there, and the game would show on top, much like it does with the original Space Invaders. I'll show you a little bit of footage here as we look at this machine. When I first got it, I was able to get it sort of partially running, and you'll sort of get a bit of an idea how the graphics overlay on top. But it's just such a awesome machine. It's since actually stopped working completely. It's going to need some work. It's in pretty good condition for its age. It's absolutely original in terms of its age, and it's got this cool feature. You know, here we got the plunger. You know, flipper buttons are on the side, sort of nicely molded, and it's got this cool feature where you can push down on it, and that would actually nudge the table, nudge the game. You know, guys, we're talking about 1978, and again, I just love things like this. You can't maim this, well, you can, but you can't quite get the same effect. And you know, I was thinking, what would be really cool? You could put, this is like a nice distance here, you could put a nice 24-inch monitor in here. I'm talking LCD, guys, and I know you might be cringing right now, but hey, you could put that under this reflective mirror. Turn off the black light. When you turn the black light off, you don't get any reflection. You could run a PC in here. You could run Visual Pinball, Pinball effects on this cool little cabinet saying Video Pinball. And then, if you wanted to, you could flick over even to MAME or the original board, if I can get it going. Turn on the black light, would reflect, and then you could play the original game. How cool would that be? So I don't know, that's my mind going crazy, crazy thoughts of projects I'll probably never have time to do, but I had to pick this up. Another one, again, it's a piece of art, piece of history. I just love it. All right, next up, needs no introduction, it's Outrun. It's Outrun, guys. It's Outrun, oh. I love my Outrun, and we're going to hopefully get to do a special episode on this shortly. Currently I don't have the controls hooked up, still have a sound issue. The screen needs degaussing as well by the looks of things, but it's pretty special. This is the original cabinet, which is also shared in the States. I think the interesting thing again is in Australia we've got these red, the underside of the cabinet's red where it's black. In the US, I believe, some of these little things that change. I know that behind here you could actually put some LED lights and light up these gauges. I haven't seen that anyone do that, but I have checked it out. Put a light behind there and it glows. That would be a nice little mod. Outrun, I can't say anything more. It's a classic, and normally this would be in the rotation in the garage here to bring into the house with one other game, which is the next one, which I spoke about briefly, and that is Championship Sprint. Wow, and it's such a massive cabinet, this, with the Atari System 2. Again, slightly different in Australia. It doesn't cut in like it does on the US version. The pedals are separate on either side, whereas in the US they're side by side in the middle, which is interesting because one person would have to sort of do a left foot thing, whereas on the Australian one you both can use your same sort of foot comfortably. No side art currently on this. Of course, the Atari System 2 artwork would be pretty awesome on there. This cabinet needs some work. Just the back of it and the top, which you don't really see, but both of those pieces of wood are pretty badly damaged. Old chipboard with water damage. But I love this machine. The graphics are all good on this main screen. This monitor's got a funny little thing happening in the middle here. But we've got this sort of artifacting going on still on the main screen. Otherwise the game plays beautifully. So yeah, even though I think I've got a working set between my two boards, I still need to do, between the Super Sprint and Championship Sprint, I still need to do some further research on why I'm getting these video artifacts. I should be able to fix it between the two, although obviously some chips aren't actually socketed, so I won't necessarily be able to swap everything over to see. But anyway, I've got some work to be done there, guys. Classic game, huge fun. I miss it actually when it's out here and not in the arcade. It's just, I just don't have any room right now for it, but I love it nonetheless. Rightio, well, we're in the house now, and it's a little bit more comfortable playing games in here. And this is what was originally a bit of an overflow out around the pool table, and I don't know, it's since become a bit of a fixture. I like to think so anyway. And it's just a nice combination of machines, guys, because when you have people over, you don't necessarily want to go straight into the main arcade. Hang out for a bit, have a few beers, do a bit of side-by-side racing on Cruising World, and we'll get back to those in a moment. Play a little bit of leisurely head-to-head cocktail games on the Hankin. A nice selection on there for that. It's a beautiful wood grain table, that. And then just, have a few casual games of pinball with a couple of classics from the 80s. And if we're really feeling like we want to settle down and get strategic, play a little bit of chess. Alice in Wonderland set there. So yeah, this is just a nice way, especially casually, sometimes if we have a party or something, and we may not even end up in the arcade, but because this connects to our main living area, it's such a nice social area that then links on to outside and the outdoor area. So it works pretty well, guys. You can sort of think of things like this in your own house in relation to, what games work where best, and definitely a couple of pinballs, head-to-head cocktail, use that as a table for your drinks, and head-to-head racing is popular with everyone. So with the Cruising Worlds, you can see, for those who have been following the channel, I have both machines going beautifully now. The left one got the monitor sorted out, and guys, we had a package delivered, and I'll show you that now. So out of that package, all those parts, including the new seat here, we got rid of that old car seat. There's still some parts I need to strip back and paint. They're still rusty and stuff, but we'll do that. I just wanted to get it all fitted up to make sure that I had all the parts, and we do. So it's great having the original chair back, and things like the metal trim. We've got the connection cables hooked up here. It's currently, according to the dip switch settings, I've set it on what I think was 2 players or 2 machines, according to the information online, but it thinks it's trying to connect to 3 machines. There's no problem. It still happily works, but I probably need to fiddle around with those dip switches to make sure that it's reading just 2 machines. Again, it's not affecting anything, so it sort of doesn't really matter. It just sees them as any extra machines that aren't on is just inactive, and it happily continues its merry way. Although it does, I think, come up every so often and say, you know, 3 can play, or you know, based on that setting. I've still got some lights out too. You can see the start lights happening here, so not over here. I don't think these ones work. But the game is working beautifully, head to head, cruising world. It's a classic. It is so funny to get to the end and see Clinton in the hot tub. It's just Bill Clinton and Hillary in there and a couple of bikini girls. Bit tongue-in-cheek for the era, and just a hell of a lot of fun. And then back to the Hankin, just a whole load of awesome head-to-head games on here, and a few others that are just single play also that are on the vertical layout, but the good old head-to-head Spacies, Space Invaders 2, one of the very rare ones where you can play at the same time rather than swap ends. But yeah, there's just classics, and you can normally find something in here that someone likes, and it's just a nice casual way to, as I said, to play without being full on in the arcade. Oh god, I just love this cabinet. The wood grain, guys, the wood grain. And to finish off again on the pinball side of things, look at that, Sorcerer making itself known. Still got some work to do on this machine. As you can see, the back glass is actually just some coloured photocopy stuck behind the glass there. It was completely flaked off, so I need to get a new back glass, and I also need to do all the lights, rewire the lights out back there. But otherwise, it's a working machine. Still some things to fix up on it, and we'll go through that another day. And of course, I've still got plans to do a LED swap in for all the machines that I've got incandescents in there. Again, time and money, but we'll get there. But a classic game, and of course next with Firepower, another game that really doesn't need any introduction, and just one that you can keep coming back to. And I will say, guys, these 2 machines and my couple of my other pinballs, which we'll get to, have all been up for certain deals, swap deals, other deals, and those deals had all fallen through. And every time, and I say every time, it's probably happened 3 times, and at the end of it, I've always been thankful that it hasn't gone through, because I just love these machines, and I sort of ask myself every time afterwards, why do I keep thinking about putting them as part of a deal? Now, it's tempting. Wrap up a couple of these machines with another one for sort of a later model DMD or something, but quite frankly, you're just not going to get a replication of this classic pinball style from anything but the original tables. So I think hopefully, guys, I'll come to my senses and just hang on to them and do them up. Alright, well, that is, as I said, the very casual space to come in, relax, have a beer, game of pool, and some penny, stick some music on, and just get a feel for things before you head off down to the arcade. And we will do that now, but in between we're just going to do a quick stop off in the study to show a couple of the overflow machines which are currently in there. So let's go take a look. Right, so we have stopped off in the study, and at the moment we've got the 8-ball champ here, and we have on the left here the Tato Basketball. I've got another Spacies machine in here in tabletop, but I've got a lot of junk on it, so we won't take a look at that. But that's a little LAI. No, sorry, not an LAI, it's a Logitech Space Invaders. But we'll look at that another day. But 8-ball champ is, look, it looks actually really, really nice right now, suiting its style with its incandescent lamps. I flip-flop between really loving this game and then I'm not so sure, and then of course I really looking for that 8-ball deluxe one day, but no taking away, this game is still a great pinball machine and worthy of any collection, I think. You just need to give it a little bit of time. And of course, on this side, the Tato Basketball from the 70s, still working, the one that I picked up from the shed way out in the middle of Whoop Whoop, and we did an episode on that, and it's just amazing that this machine is running and complete, and I love it. It's just early Pong style game, again totally original. It's super nice. So yeah guys, it's a little literally 3 games can fit in here, and I use it as my bit of an overflow. I don't know if the 8-ball champ will stay here. It's not really one to bring in and out from an overflow perspective, so we'll look at that in the future. So from here, let us go and check out the main event and get in to the arcade. So here we are with the first machine within the arcade. Here we have the other Neo Geo that I was talking about, and I love this form factor. It's 23 inch, so it's a bit bigger than the Low Boy, and it is spectacular with the MCA joysticks, which I have grown to love. A lot of precision movement with these things. Didn't like them at first, but yeah, I've really grown to like them. Neo Geo, again, select any Neo Geo game, they're all crackers. And Puzzle Bobble here is something that my daughter really enjoys. So this was parked here actually from a birthday party last time that she had, and thought it was a good game to swap in. But this form factor actually works pretty well in this corner here behind the door, so it's sort of stayed there ever since. Alright, next machine. The Astro City guys talked about this machine a lot. Absolutely gorgeous monitor, it's unbelievable. These controls are so silky smooth, so nice to play head to head with someone else. And I have been focusing, even though we've got the pit there, which is a good old classic 80s game, remember that from the fish and chip shop, but I've got 1942, another classic, but there's a lot of more modern shmups on here which I'm still filling out, but I've still got a lot of the classics which are showing at the moment, just on the attract mode. Got a Raspberry Pi, Jammer Pi in there, and it's just a beautiful machine. I can't say enough about the Astro Cities. Everyone should have one in their arcade. Moving on, ice cold beer. Now I think I mentioned in the last video about the new ice cold beer that's been released from Steam, and my little setup here with a real control panel. I'm just running off a Mac but running Windows, and I would really like to run that new Steam version, but there's definitely some things you can see. There's some really nice shadowing and stuff on here. This looks so much more realistic than the Steam version does. The little subtle things like the little divots in the glass and stuff, so that was done really nice. This just looks a lot better, even though some of the resolution isn't maybe as good as the Steam version. But I was going to do another sort of video on that as that Steam version progresses, so we can do a little bit of a comparison, but you can see straight off that the realism of the one that was created by the community is pretty damn good, and it plays very nice with the real controller, of course. Coming around to the pins, we have Space Shuttle, and what a sensational pinball machine this is. I think this would do really well with an LED kit for sure. It still looks really nice though with its incandescent lamps as it stands right now. Cool soundtrack, cool speech. It's just again another absolute classic, and I'm so happy to have it in the collection. Theatre of Magic needs no introduction, and my little magic ball sitting on the top there. And you know, this is something I really aspired to when I first created the arcade, was to be able to somehow get you know, one of the later D&D machines. And it's pretty tough to do, you know, these are extremely expensive, and I did find this one with a very good deal, otherwise I would not have picked it up for the normal going rates. And there's only a few little things wrong with it, and we got those fixed. There's a couple of little residual things that need doing, but nothing that impacts the gameplay significantly. Absolute awesome game, and hopefully I can add to it with some more DMD pinball down the track, but we'll have to see because yeah, the cost of a small car, but gosh, they're awesome. The visual pinball table, I've covered this a lot in recent episodes, and I'm absolutely loving it. We're showing the Pinball FX3 tables at the moment, scrolling around, but of course we have the a lot of visual pinball tables on here as well. You can play Zachariah. It's basically a multi-pinball virtual machine. It has all the additional Cree lighting and force feedback, and it's just a sensational machine. Obviously doing a lot more videos these days on the virtual pin, so if you are interested in that, you will see a lot more on this particular table if you are not already familiar with it. Moving around, twin Daytonas. Again guys, I've got this quite dark at the moment in here, on purpose really. I just want to sort of give you the feel of the arcade. I know it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get the lighting right. But yeah, twin Daytonas guys. What can I say? Classic from the 90s. So popular with people when they come over. And then look, I don't know, down the track maybe when the boards eventually die and I can't get them replaced or repaired, I think, you know, this still is a good candidate potentially for a PC swap in later and a multi-game to be able to play Daytona, Sega Rally, and you know, and a whole load of other twin races. If I can hook up the original controls, and there's been a lot of work done in that space over the years. There's a few sort of kits available. No one's really come out with a solution that's sort of plug and play. I'm waiting for that day really. But these machines, they're not in great condition. I picked these up, of course, on the cheap again, and because of that there were a lot of issues, and I still need to get back to, you know, not doing a full restore, but getting them to a much nicer state. I've got some problems with the seats and stuff. We've got to get all this sorted out, so at some stage these will be torn down and fixed up a little. Now we're at the Sega Blast and Sega Blast City, and of course Tekken 5, absolute staple Namco game, classic. And you know, it's funny actually, because I play a lot of the new Tekken as well on the PC, but there's just something, I don't know, something about Tekken 5. It's really accessible and it's so much fun playing with two players. Of course, this particular cabinet is stellar with its screen, its chassis in there. It's just incredible. I need to do something about the marquee, got Guilty Gear in there. But yeah, this is something else. I mean, just look at the way that 5, it's just, this monitor is wow. Wow. And the controls are absolutely awesome. So there's a few little things I need to do to the cabinet around the bottom here, but absolutely loving Tekken. In the corner we have the original Spacies, the Midway one, which is actually a little bit unusual here in Australia, because we got a lot of the Taito Space Invaders, and then in New Zealand where I grew up, it was predominantly the New Zealand brand of Space Invaders that looked a little bit different again. And of course these are just absolute classic cabinets, just for the mirror, the reflection, and it's just crazy. And this particular cabinet has the braze kit in it, so you can hop out of here and flick into other games. And you know, games like Lunar Rescue, definite favourite of mine. And it's so cool to be able to flick in and out of that in terms of those classic games. But really beautiful cabinet, and an original from United States, of course. Midway licensed Space Invaders from Taito to release in the US, so this was really the United States cabinet. So again, yeah, quite rare in Australia. I'm pretty fond of the Taito ones, especially the quite rare Taito Space Invaders Part 2, which is the deluxe version in the States. That's a nice red cabinet, which would actually go really well in here. So yeah, hopefully I can snag one of those in the future, but for now I have the Midway version. Down here with lots of reflections, you might be able to make out a little bit of asteroids going on. So this is the cocktail table, and yeah, look, excuse all the reflections, but looks quite interesting like that, doesn't it? I've still got to get the monitor sorted out. These are not as bright as they should be. The source is coming across pretty bright, but the actual asteroids themselves need to come up a bit. I am going through 2 layers of tint though. There's a tinted glass and there's also a blue tint underneath that, and that is killing quite a bit of the brightness. Look under here, you just see exactly what it really looks like. But yeah, there's still lots to be done in there in relation to that monitor chassis. And this particular Taito tabletop, getting a little bit difficult to see here, but it's a great little table. I can swing this forward, and guys, yeah, I can eat my dinner off it. You know, that's what those Taito caps were for, right? In the middle, we have basically my main setup running through the PC on the OLED with the additional marquee. I'd love to have a flyer screen up on the right hand side. That would just top it off. But it's a really nice way to experience different MAME games. And for the moment, I've got this janky controller that was off my old MAME machine. And I think I've explained this a few times before, but this top piece here will be the piece that I will actually cut into eventually, and we'll put all the controllers in there, and we'll get a whole new set of controllers, and we'll get them lit up, and we'll have, you know, a typical sort of MAME setup unapologetically. It will look pretty cool. So a really, really nice way to just enjoy every single game that was released over the classic area. And then into the Grand Champion cab, you can see that I've currently got Outrun running on here, 2SP, and that is courtesy of a PlayStation 3 hookup. Now, I've explained this on a video before, but I am able to switch inputs on this machine and this machine and alternate between have any sort of combination between PS3, PS4 and PC games. So I can pretty much run, well, I can run every single racing driving game that's on the PS3, PS4, PC on this cabinet. You choose one, I can run it. And likewise, we can run PS3, PS4 and PC on here. Plus I have my Atari 800 and sort of tucked away under there with the cover on it. There's an Atari VCS down there somewhere, and a few other things to connect up there. So it's a really nice racing rig. It's beautiful to be in the cockpit. There's still things that I want to do to this. At the moment I've got 2.1 speaker set up. I want to get the full surround happening around the back at some stage, but I have been progressing this over the last year or so, and have provided, I think, a few updates in relation to changing controls and just providing more space for the pedals and whatnot. But this cabinet is absolutely awesome, and I love it to death. It's not going anywhere. So guys, that was all the main machines. I'm just going to focus now just very quickly on some of the things that are around the outside of the arcade here on the walls. You can see all these cans. This is my can collection actually when I was 10 or 11, and I collected a lot of these from New Zealand. There's a lot of New Zealand cans up there. and a lot of cans from the American base that was stationed in Christchurch at the time, a lot of US cans from that base. And I used to cycle down on my BMX and collect those cans, and a lot of Aussie cans too. We got a lot of Aussie beer imported in to New Zealand, and also my father actually sent off to a couple of his friends in Australia back in the 80s, and they sent me back some of these cans. So one day, look, we'll do a little bit more insight into these, because there's some pretty cool cans on here, and it might be a little bit hard to see right now in the light that we have. And it probably doesn't help. I'm zooming around a little fast here, but we'll come back to these cans. They're very special to me. That's why they are all up here, and pretty much collected, well, at least 60% of them by hand, and the rest through those donations from my father's friends and so forth. So very special. What else do we have? Well, we got the my stepfather, actually, if you go back to the episode about Wizards, we got the Wizards coin, and the Wizards was an awesome place I used to visit. Again, sorry about the reflections, guys, in here, but there's a cool picture here of a whole load of kids looking around top of a cocktail machine, and got the Wizards signs on there. And so I just sort of made a bit of a collage. That was exactly how it was back in the day, people crowding around machines. That was a photo from Wizards, which is pretty amazing. Man cave, I think my wife gave that to me at some point. Probably will remove the references to the man cave, actually. It's a little bit more inclusive these days, so we'll probably move that on. We saw the plasma ball before. There's a nice little addition. There's a topper on the Theatre of Magic. We've talked before about this real sword that was created for Tales of the Arabian Nights. And again, a little bit dark at the moment, but we did cover that the other day. It's got all the jewels in there. I can try and hook it up virtually, which I may do. We've got a Dart neon clock. Of course, we have the Daytona USA signage here. We actually have a laser starry light here, which I'm just going to put on, and it actually gives us this nice star field across the ceiling here, which is pretty cool. Back in the corner here where it's very dark, we can see a share certificate, an Atari share certificate. Around here we've got the quarter arcades, we have Pac-Man, and just as the luck would have it, Clegg has just run out of battery power. Let me just plug that back in. And here we go. The contrast is getting a little bit difficult to see the marquee. But yeah, these are pretty superb. Running the original ROMs from Numbskull. I love these quarter arcades. And you see the Pac-Man running on that one, and the backlit. I mean, they're not cheap, guys, they're not cheap, but the way I see it is, to me, it's like having the arcades in my little arcade without taking up, of course, all the room. Now, up on the wall here, we have the back glass and also the real pinball table that came out of my virtual pin, which I currently have. So this was stripped out of the original machine. I didn't have all the electronics. Again, I've talked about this before. I probably could have saved it if I actually, found all the electronics, but it's not a great game, this one. Everything is still intact on here. It probably could be animated. Is that the right word? At the moment, in terms of the lighting, it's just Christmas lights, guys. It's just got Christmas lights behind there, just going through their pattern, and it's a nice way to animate the entire playfield. So it's cool to have that there because it sort of reminds me what came out of this machine. That's what it used to be. Of course, I have the Theatre of Magic decals on the side. I Want to change that up as we upgrade it, because then of course I picked up a real Theatre of Magic, so it looks a little odd having the same decals there. All right, moving around, you would have seen maybe in some previous videos now, this has all started to build up this section of the arcade, and a lot of cool stuff here, guys. All the really cool magazines from back in the day. Compute, Analog, Antic. Being a big Atari guy, Analog and Antic were the key ones there for me. Video games. We got access to that from time to time in New Zealand. Family computing, I'm pretty sure we saw that as well. I don't think we got Atari User. I picked that up since. Computer, video, and video games. CVG, absolute staple, very popular of course in the UK magazine, but we used to get that in New Zealand as well. But my absolute favourite was Electronic Games. I don't think there's a better gaming magazine than Electronic Games. So it's really cool, guys, to have all these magazines here sitting around the couch and being able to grab a magazine or two on a Sunday afternoon. Just reminisce back in memory lane about the 80s. In the corner, of course, we have the Vectrex that we picked up. Got some nice vector goodness, and that's where you can see how the screen should be in terms of its brightness. We'll get asteroids that bright at some stage. Up on the shelf, there's a little, quite a few modern takes on emulated little platforms. That one there in the corner is a 2600 retro handheld. We've got some little Star Wars lights. These bookshelf speakers on the bookshelf are part of a stereo system, which is again very special to me, which is sitting on the floor behind me at the moment. This Invaders game was oh my god, how many times I played this one. Not this exact one, I had to rebuy it because I don't know what happened to my original, but I played that again and again. We'll look at some of those handhelds down the track. Some of the Blu-ray collection that I have here, and some of the HD Blu-ray. I'll just sort of scroll past here. It's you know, it's probably about 10% of all the movies that I would like in my collection. And of course I've got a lot of digital movies as well, but majority, but not all, of these are all the Blu-ray HD movies that I wanted to pick up along the way. Got a little miniature Space Invaders and a Rubik's Cube, guys. Everyone's got to have a Rubik's Cube. I mean, that was the 80s. And then of course Zatanna on the corner here. It used to be up as a topper on the Theatre of Magic. Quite a nice figurine. A little Spacies light. This thing lights up. This is battery operated though, so it can run out of juice. So let's turn that off. A few more Spacies. We got the Spacies Star Wars figurines. In terms of well, they look like LED lighting, but it is LED lighting underneath there. It's just lighting up a little plastic thing with the lines on it. It's quite a cool effect though. Looks cool in 3D. A little Pac-Man coin there that came with a quarter arcade. Got the original Vectrex game that came with the Vectrex when I got it. And then we have these Replicades, again running the authentic ROMs, Centipede, all the artwork, smaller than the numbskull versions, absolutely playable. Little trackball on it. These are just really, really good. Again, not cheap, but I just love them. I mean, it's if I can't have the full-size cab, guys, I'm gonna have one of those. Past a few more Star Wars lighting, we have this awesome Sony Discman, and I didn't realize how awesome that particular model was until now. These things still fetch a pretty penny, and I hooked this up just the other day and listened to some of my favorite CDs, and I just remembered how warm. I mean, it's not accurate audio, but it's got a real warm bass. It's got some super bass on it, You can select between two different variants. It's just something about it, It's yeah, I used to use this all the time in the 90s. And then of course coming through to Tempest, and you know, with the spinner, it's just done so well, guys. You know, even with the little Atari Volcano lights on there, original ROM, it's too good. And a little bar corner here, because you know, I'm really trying to pack in everything I can in such a small space. I have a very limited little bar. And then, you know, people keep telling me I'm losing my marbles, so I keep saying, oh no, they're there. They're there on the corner there. I used to play marbles as a kid, and it's cool to have a little jar of marbles. Everyone should. Now, it might be a little dark up the top here. There's a whole load of Atari 8-bit software. A lot of that black box stuff is very special to me, and running through to the 2600 stuff, a lot more there I want to collect. And a few Atari 8-bit, 850, and it was an 835, the modem. Pro Pinball, a classic when it first came out, another little man cave. And then we've got those really special EA, almost like records from back in the day. Were on the Atari and on the Commodore 64, they released them, like little albums, beautiful artwork. Again, we'll go through some of those in the future. And in the very dark there, I've touched on this before, is my Scott Adams Adventure Series limited edition. That is so awesome. So yeah, this wall to me has a lot of special items, and I'm so happy that it's just, you know, I can look at it and enjoy all of that, as well as go back in history through the magazines to really get a feel for what it was like back in the day. We've got Avengers poster in the corner here. I love this poster. I'm not a huge Avengers fan, but it's just, this poster was just absolutely crazy. Looked awesome. Black lights on it. Of course, we have our pachinko machine from Japan also on here. I bought this in Australia though, but of course they are the very popular machine in Japan, and I've done a video on this thing before, and I still look at it and just admire the lighting. It's an amazing piece of art. It really is, just sitting on the wall even when I don't play it. I absolutely love it. And moving around, we have what is the outside dome of a LAI crazy looking arcade cabinet from back in the 80s. So I took the dome off. The original part of the rest of the machine is actually in storage, and I added this light around the outside, but the chasing lights were the original chasing lights. They're actually did like 240 volt lighting, which is really bizarre. Yeah, the chase lights were original. And in the middle there, you can see the Spacies Arcade logo is now spinning out with some really psychedelic, basically electric sheep graphics, which I have now superimposed. It's like 3 hours of just absolute crazy graphics which center around the logo, and it does some pretty crazy stuff. So that just sort of carries on the wall in the background. And then moving around, I've got this shelf up relatively, not recently now I guess, but I just haven't shown you guys, so just another little addition. And I've got all my Atari big black box collection up there. Again, very special to me because of the Atari 8-bit was part of my childhood, and some classic games, Star Raiders, Defender, the big story around that, and Asteroids, of course. Up the top, I've got my PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and a PS3 up there, but that will probably change probably get a few more Atari stuff over there and get rid of those into another place of the arcade. But I quite like that. On this side was the old Atari corner. You can see I got the 2600 box and the Atari music box, and just an old 830 modem, an acoustic modem there, and some Atari binders with the games and discs and stuff for the 8-bit. There's a whole lot of PS3 games in there, so there's a little bit of a mix. The Art of Atari book. And then coming around full circle, I've got my my number from my BMX that I used to ride when I was sort of 11 to 14, 15. That was the number that I had when I raced, and I wasn't that good, but I ended up getting a ribbon for the first event that I raced for third place, and then found out straight after that, it was the very first race I'd ever done in terms of like a championship meet. I got third overall for the day in my class, and I got chosen with the second and first place people to feature in a healing BMX video, and I actually have that somewhere on VHS. I had to dig that out one time, guys. I'll show you. It's quite funny. We had to wear these sort of space suits, but I can remember that whole filming process. It was very, very interesting. And of course, a little Atari sign up the top, just to top it off. So there you go, guys. I haven't really talked about what's been on the walls before, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into why I have all that stuff around the place. But I think it's really, really nice to be able to include all of those very, very special things in the arcade. It just adds more so for me than anyone else, I think. They come in here and a lot of people probably think, what is all this junk? But for me, it means a lot, and it's almost like a little slice of arcade heaven. Alright guys, well, that is the end of the tour. Let's finish up. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. I must admit, it's quite tough actually going around every single machine, and I don't know how many machines I've got now. I'm going to have to count them up because it seems like a lot. And of course, I can only get so many machines in here. I'm really happy with how it's turned out in terms of what I've selected in here. I'm really liking the other setup out in that round by the pool table. I think I can further develop that a little. And between the arcade here and the setup out there, I think we'll get a nice combination with potentially a couple of machines still in rotation. But I will say this, guys, I thought that there's been several times, but just really recently, I've actually thought that I've pretty much got there in terms of locking this in, and this would be the ultimate arcade that I was after. But it just ends up being these little changes and little extras, and then there's something about to happen which might change this somewhat, not materially, but quite a lot though. And I didn't think I would have things like that on an ongoing basis, because I'm really conscious of the fact of trying to, get to some sort of finish. I still want to enjoy the journey and play the games beyond that, but I can see now that there's still so many little things. It's that whole thing that's the 80-20 rule, right? And I keep hitting the 80%. Now I get into the 20 and it's just taking so much longer. But anyway, it's fun, it's exciting, it's forever changing. I've gone back to some of my older videos and looked at how I had the arcade before, and there's lots of little things again that I'm like, oh, well, I still like that, but then that wouldn't work how I've got it now. And it's so hard to come up with something that you want to settle on in this hobby. And Yeah, it's just been a huge, amazing journey for me, and I didn't think it would be so open-ended. So guys, if you've started on this journey and you can relate to what I'm saying, for those of you that may not have started and just dipping your toe in, just beware, because this hobby can really grab you, especially if you've got a lot of nostalgia for these sorts of games. So we're going to leave it there for today, guys. Out of all the machines that I still probably that I've looked at today, like, I've enjoyed actually going back and playing these as part of this video, and so hard to choose a favorite game out of all the games that I currently have, and I can only sort of indicate what I feel like playing a little bit more of now, and that would be Theatre of Magic. So for that, guys, I'm going to need some coinage. Before I actually say that, consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed and you've come this far. If you've actually come this far, right to the very end, then you should be a subscriber. So please subscribe, and you'll see me next time try and work out how I can ask for a 20 at the end of the video. So anyway, guys, Theatre of Magic, need some coinage, got a 20.
Fight like a robot.